The Sunbelt coaching carousel taking an odd turn. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, we'll get back to the coaching carousel here in a second. We got the Sunbelt Bowl projections, not as sexy as they once were. And we got Sunbelt basketball recap from the weekend. And it wasn't so good on Monday either. So we'll look at that as well. But the coaching carousel is obviously going to heat up. Will Hall, there's only one job opening right now in the Sunbelt, and that is Southern Miss. They said that we wanted to have someone in place by this week because all the other openings are going to happen after, Saturday. It's Black Monday. Come after Black Friday, it comes Black Monday. I think ECU is about to hire their interim coach. Heard he's gone 4-0. And then heard the Yale football coach is going to Rice. But other than that, I haven't heard too many things. But that's out there. That's public. I mean, if it's on Twitter, it's got to be true, right? But this is where it kind of turned a little interesting. And I looked into it a little bit more just to know the facts because it got out there on, I got to believe, on Sunday and on Monday that Charles Huff from Marshall is considering and interviewing for the Southern Miss job. And I'm like, hold on here. So a couple of things. I love both of those programs. I've never been to Huntington. Did go to Southern Miss. And both of those places have their own fan bases. All right. They draw pretty well, although I guess Marshall hasn't lately. And we know Southern Miss can draw as well. All right. I don't know why Marshall wouldn't be drawing this year. I mean, they're playing for a Sunbelt title. Same thing that the Cajuns can't draw. I don't understand that either, but that's another story. Nonetheless, I found that very odd. It's a very lateral move. Again, I'm not sure why you would do that. All right. I'm not sure why we're going from Huntington, West Virginia to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Feels like the challenges are there in both places. One does not feel like it's easier to win than the other. All right. Both have had long tradition. Both have been very successful. And he may have been a little bit more successful at Marshall than Will Hall was at Southern Miss, but no one has really competed for a Sunbelt title yet, right? I don't know about the East, but, the Cajuns and I guess Troy are the only two teams that have played in the Sunbelt championship game for the West. I don't think Marshall has, right? App State and JMU could not do it. We do now. Yeah. So I don't think Marshall has. Nonetheless, I'm just not sure why that would happen. All right. So why would he leave to go to Southern Miss? Well, a couple things. This is what I know. And you can find this out because it takes Google and it doesn't take more than a second to find out. And I did not realize this. Charles Huff is coaching without a contract. He does not have a contract for 2025. Says he expects to be back in 2025. At least it did when those articles came out. But he does not have a contract. Usually that never happens. Usually it used to be. I don't think you have to do it anymore because rosters are year to year now with the NIL and mostly the transfer portal. But usually you don't go into the final year of your contract without an extension, whether it be 2 or 3 years. All right. And before I go any further, I want to state this very clearly. All right. I am not a big believer that there's only one person for the job, right? Unless you are Nick Saban or Bill Belichick, right? I'm a big believer there are multiple people for the job. I may not know who they are. That's a different story. But we shouldn't get caught up, and Jimmy Sexton, if you will. Jimmy Sexton is the coaching agent that always gets coaches raises and extensions that you don't necessarily need to do. I think Charlie Weiss got a big one at Notre Dame. Nick Saban got a big one at Alabama. He was never going to leave. He's going to Texas. Oh, Miss Terry is seen in Austin shopping. No, not really. That's Miles got one, right? So these guys get extensions when they're not really. Gus Malzahn got one. Why can't we just slow the roll? I mean, G.J. Kinney, I don't know if his agent is Jimmy Sexton, but he's got 2 extensions. He got one after his first season. Now he's got one after his second season. And so these guys get a lot of extensions and pay raises. And sometimes the pay raises are fine. But they get extensions and it gets too much, right? And so it kind of it didn't improve for Gus. It certainly didn't improve for Les. Charlie Weiss went into the tank. And sometimes you got to slow the roll, all right? I'm going to leave or else. Leave. I'll find somebody else. That's kind of the way I would do it. All right. Now, having said that, Will Hall was making a little bit more money. These are public schools, so the money is out there. He was making a little $800,000 or just over $800,000, and Charles Huff was making about $755,000. So there's a little bit of a difference. I guess what you don't want to do is if you're Marshall, you don't want to see, the Thundering Herd playing in Hattiesburg next year as Southern Miss Golden Eagles, right? Because he'll probably take Braylon Braxton with him if he goes. That's the only thing, right? We see what happened with JMU in Indiana. Kurt Cignetti took his players, right? Billy Napier, and in this case, Cignetti had success. Billy Napier took a bunch of players and coaches to Florida. Things finally look to be going in the right direction there. I'll also say this. I'll be shocked if he goes. That's one of two things. Either Southern Miss is offering a bunch of money if it's under consideration, or B, Marshall doesn't want him back. I mean, that's the way I would look at it. That's the way I would look at it. Big Charles Huff fan. I think is a great fit at Marshall. The reason I said it on Twitter that I didn't think he would, I didn't believe it for a second that he interviewed. At the time, I didn't realize that he didn't have a contract. So if you don't have a contract, you can't blame me for going to interview for a job that I may need here in a couple of weeks, right? It's very odd. And again, I don't buy the whole, this happens more with players than coaches. Well, we're not going to negotiate during the season. Well, you're not negotiating with me. You're negotiating with the agents. And by the time, I don't know how that works, but I presume the agent is not bringing every single detail to the coach, right? There's let me work on it. I'll send you an email. If you have any questions, we'll sit down. Maybe we go have lunch. I'll fly in. We'll talk about it for an hour. And then, if there's anything else, we can discuss. And then you got, if he does take the job with Southern Miss, now you got another opening at in Huntington with Marshall, but I'm going to be surprised if he does. But there's two reasons he would. A lot more money and Marshall didn't want him back. All right, because he's going to get a raise, right? If they beat JMU, even if you didn't beat JMU this coming week, you're still, in contention for the Sun Belt East title. You do have a tough ball game. Going to JMU is not going to be easy. We'll see if JMU is into it, right? That's the maturity thing we've talked about with a couple of teams. See if JMU can be mature and not mail it in. But I'd be surprised if he takes that gig. I think he's got a good thing going there in Huntington, and I think he's gonna stay. But it would certainly provide all of us with a bunch of content for the better part of a few months, if not a year. All right. So that's what I think. I think he's staying. I didn't realize he was not under contract. That's why he may be interviewed. And it's going to be one of two things. Either they offer him a lot of money or Marshall doesn't want him back. No, I'd be surprised if he does leave. I think Charles Huff is going to stay in Marshall. I don't know anything at all in terms of inside information. I have no inside information. See L. Creasy for that one. All right, let's take a timeout. Let's do Sunbelt Bowl projections. Still think there's 8 teams going to a bowl game. All right, and we're waiting to see if Coastal can get one more win to get to a bowl game. We will do that after I tell you about Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All right, tomorrow, or today as the case may be, is my day off. I am going to get those Duke Louisville basketball tickets that my nephew will be incredibly jealous that I'm going to go. He will be in school and will not be able to attend. You get those priority Gametime picks. Curation makes it even easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. All in pricing. Toggle this feature and shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and you get that lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Gametime ticket coverage gives you your purchases covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Call to action, and you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. I'm Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, let's check this out. I did see, I think it was CBS Sports, and we've been doing Brett McMurphy from Action Network. You can go to, numerous places, but I kind of wanted to stay consistent. Although I did see CBS Sports suggesting that the Cajuns were going back to play Sam Houston State in the New Orleans Bowl. And they don't want to do it. They'd rather go to the Cure Bowl or the Independence Bowl and play a better quality opponent. But we'll see. Let's see what Brett McMurphy is suggesting here. Okay. So we start off at the beginning, Camellia Bowl. Remember, that was, I believe, last week, South Alabama and Eastern Michigan in a rematch from the Mobile Bowl. But now they got South Alabama and Liberty playing in Montgomery. That's in the Camellia Bowl. Scooter's Coffee Frisco Bowl has Arkansas State going to has Arkansas State taking on a Bowling Green. Arkansas State, by the way, hosting ODU, looking for their 8th win. It's been a really good season for Arkansas State. They did take it on the chin. Well, didn't they lose? They lost to Iowa State and Michigan. And then they lost to the Cajuns in Texas State. That's a good year. Finish it off with a win against ODU and maybe beat a bowl game, win a bowl game. That's a really good year for Butch Jones and the Red Wolves. All right. And then next year, when the talent overturns, both at Texas State and for the Cajuns, it'll be Arkansas State and South Alabama who are competing in the West. We'll see what ULM has to say about that. Boca Raton Bowl, fun place to go. Know a lot of people there. Got the Cajuns against East Carolina. Cajuns fans don't want that. They want to go up against a Power 4 school. They don't want that. I don't know how many people would go to that. That would be December 18th. Let's see here when that would be. All right, December 18th is on a Wednesday. No one's going to go to that. Oh, well. So that's 3. All right. Speaking of Marshall, they're going to the New Orleans Bowl. Again, I'm not sure. I need to look into this. Who determines who the New Orleans Bowl gets? Is it the champion? Is it the runner-up? I don't know. I presume you're picking the Cajuns to win the Sun Belt, but I don't know that. I don't know that. So Marshall is going to the New Orleans Bowl, which they were actually in with Charles Huff the year before they were in the Sun Belt, got beat by Levi Lewis and the Cajuns. They're taking on Jacksonville State, who are your defending New Orleans Bowl champions, is the word I'm looking for. Do I have those days right? Hold on a second. December 2024. Yeah, the 19th is the Thursday night. Last year was on a weekend, I thought. And 2 years ago, it was during the week. I went right from work in Mobile when South Alabama took it on the chin to Western Kentucky. All right, so that is 4 teams, right? South Alabama, Arkansas State, the Cajuns, and Marshall in quick action. You get, speaking of Western Kentucky, they're going to go to the Cure Bowl and take on Georgia Southern. So that is 5 teams in the Sun Belt going bowling. And remember, Georgia Southern's not out of this yet either. Georgia Southern beats App and JMU beats Marshall. Georgia Southern will be going to the Sun Belt championship game. And should the Cajuns win, we don't have to go to tie-breaking. We don't have to go to computer rankings for tiebreakers. That would be the way, because the Cajuns only have the 1 loss, whereas Georgia Southern has 2 in a conference play. So that is, how many was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is JMU. They're going to the Myrtle Beach Bowl, so they get to go play on Coastal's field. They'll take on Toledo in Conway, South Carolina. That is a 6. Let's see what 7 would be. Would be Texas State heading to Mobile to take on UConn the day after Christmas. Yeesh. Is that a what day is that? That's a Thursday. So you can make a weekend out of it. So that would be Texas State against UConn. My Orange just beat UConn, and Jim Moore Jr. has done a good job of turning that program around. It was an embarrassment when he got there. It started out slowly, but he had a good year last year. I think he lost in a bowl game, and it could be going to another bowl game. And is going to another bowl game. They're 7-4. And so that is, I can't keep count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we got 1 more team in a bowl game for or maybe not. It might not be. If you don't have Coastal Carolina. He does not have Coastal Carolina going to a bowl game. Okay. So then he's got just a 7. Coastal needs a win. They're taking on Georgia State. Georgia State's favored by 1 at home. Goodness. So Coastal with a win would be 6. Monroe with a win, huge upset over the Cajuns. They would get 6 wins. And that appears to be an App. He doesn't have App going to a bowl game. App beats Georgia Southern. They can go. So you do have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams right now that have qualified for bowl games. All right. You could very well get Coastal Carolina. That's 8. And you could get App. That's 9. I guess you could get Monroe, though they are almost 10-point underdogs at home, although that line has dropped. That's an odd thing. It's gone from 13 to 9.5. Goodness. So far you have 7 teams. Coastal Carolina's probably got the best shot, although Georgia State's coming off their best game of the year, bar none. I know it's not as big as win as Vanderbilt, but going on the road, taking down Texas State is huge for that program. And so you got Monroe, Coastal, and App State. So still could get 10 to could get 10 teams in. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. You could get 10 teams in. That's pretty good. That'd be outstanding for the Sun Belt. All right. Let's take a time out. We'll come back. We'll look at Sun Belt basketball from the weekend and on Monday. I've said it from the beginning. It's going to be a long year for the Cajuns. Back after this, after I tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Dave. Whoop. Jump the gun a little bit. Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, so let's look back at the basketball, and I'm going to tell you, I didn't pay attention at all to Sunbelt basketball. That's a me thing, but still focusing on the football and so forth. So let's look back. I'll even look back to Friday. San Diego, UC San Diego took down James Madison 73-67. Coastal Carolina upended University of Indiana at Indianapolis 71-57. Cajuns fell to Liberty 89-69. It's going to be a long year for the Cajuns. Georgia State, they were way down. They were getting beat by North Carolina Central, and then they blew them out 93-79. Texas State takes down Princeton, and then Monroe hangs on to beat Northwestern State 65-63. Arkansas State with a blowout win over Lane College 103-60. So that was Friday. Let's check out on Saturday. Marshall falls to Purdue. No big surprise there. 82-45. Georgia Southern over West Georgia. I mean, West Georgia's 0-6, but Georgia Southern's got 5 wins. Remember, they started out 0-12 last year. All right, James Madison bounces back with a win over Jacksonville State, 71-65. Coastal Carolina falls to Alabama A&M, 77-70. North Alabama upends Monroe, 74-62. That's a little bit of an ugly loss. And the Cajuns fall to George Washington, 83-74 in the Paradise Jam. Sunday, App State beats William and Mary, 79-76. Old Dominion takes it on the chin in the Caymans. I guess hashtag always the bright side. You did it in the Caymans. Boston College beats Old Dominion 82-52. Maybe a little bit of a long season for Mike Jones and his Old Dominion Monarchs. We shall see. Texas State beats Ohio by 9, 74-65. And Montana State does a number on Southern Miss, 79-59. Montana State's 2-4. Southern Miss drops to 2-4. And on Monday, how about South Alabama in the Jaguar Classic hosting their own tournament, apparently. 84-63 over Incarnate Word. 9-point game at half. Turns out to be a 21-point victory. Troy downs UTSA 86-72, snapping, I thought was a losing streak in there, but they'd come off. It looks like they got another win in there. Cajuns fall to 1-6. UAB blows them out in the second half. Cajuns were up 44-42 at half, and UAB blows them out 56-42, 98-80, or I should say 56-42 in the second half. 98-86 is your final score. Certainly not a lack of offense for the Cajuns, but giving up 56 points, that's not great defensively, obviously. High Point downs Old Dominion in the Caymans again, 73-67. In the Basketball Travelers Invitational, Abilene Christian leading Southern Miss 49-40 at half. That could be a tough ball game for the Golden Eagles. Checking ahead, seems like the Sunbelt got all their tournaments in pre-Thanksgiving. The Jaguar Classic is going this week. There are some more ball games, but I was looking for Power 5 games. It doesn't seem. James Madison's got a nice one with George Mason. Arkansas State's going to Indiana State in the Baja Mar Hoops Tournament in Nassau. Georgia State is coming here on Friday. I'm not going to be back in time. They're coming to play Kentucky. So pretty good there. Maybe we'll get somebody on to preview that with me. Saturday, no. Marshall's going to Western Kentucky. I should say Georgia Southern is going to go play Drake. I think Drake beat Miami. Drake is 6-0. I don't know anything about Drake, but they downed Miami, and they beat FAU, and they beat Vanderbilt. You know, go look who they're playing, like York College of Nebraska, and then Stephen F. Austin. Then they played Florida Gulf Coast, right? Is that Jam City or Dunk City? But then they've upended Miami, FAU, and Vanderbilt. Drake's got to be the best team that nobody knows. What did they do last year? Am I supposed to know about Drake? Love the Drake. Drake was pretty good last year, 28-6. Looks like they won the conference. Looks like they won that conference. So that's a big ball game for Georgia Southern. All right, not a Power 5, 4, or 5, but that's a big ball game for Georgia Southern. And let's see, on Sunday, Texas State playing Texas Southern. That's Johnny Jones, if you don't know, the former LSU coach, 1-5 this year. I think he's still there. Usually has them go into the NCAA tournament. All right. Didn't seem to be any Power 5 school ball games this week for the Sun Belt. So it is what it is. And again, not looking great for the Cajuns. It's going to be one of those years. We'll see. They are not drawing well. I have no idea. It is mind-boggling is not the right word. It doesn't make any sense on how the Cajuns did not draw last year. They're coming off a Sun Belt championship, and they almost beat Tennessee. And they didn't go to the games. And then when they did draw, like 2 or 2,500, everyone was like, wow, what a big crowd. Even Bob Marlin was like, wow, what a big crowd. I'm like, really? JMU came into town ranked. Like, when was the last time a ranked opponent came in to play the Cajuns? I know it's Sun Belt, but who cares? You're seeing a top 25 team, but it wasn't a Power 5 or whatever it is now, Power 4. Fans just didn't come out. So if the fans are not coming out and they're not winning, I know why they're not winning. All right, they're down 2 players at least, and one of them is their best player. We'd like to think next man up, but Kintinge had special skills that are tough to duplicate on a basketball court, right? And that's it. You got to roll with it, and it's going to be a long season for the Cajun. All right. Thank you so much. We're going to try and get some guests on this week. Probably preview, Marshall going to Georgia Southern Marshall going to JMU rather, and the Cajuns and ULM. See if we can narrow down who's going to get home field advantage. We'll see if the Cajuns, I guess, are in the CFB playoff rankings. They got a handful of votes in the AP, so they probably won't be. And so it's going to come down to those computer rankings is what it's going to come down to. It's very odd. And Marshall's going to get a bigger bump than the Cajuns are because they're on the road and they're playing JMU, where the Cajuns are playing ULM. So it very well could end up Marshall Thundering Herd can end up hosting the Cajuns. It very well could happen that way. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. We did get a few more subscribers. We're over 1,640. We're trying for that drive for 2025. So we need, I said 300. We need just under 4. We just need under 400 more subscribers here in, 5 weeks. No problem. We can do it, guys. We can do it. Really appreciate the support. Thank you so much. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day,